Lying in the hospital bed, I kept repeating the police officer's words in my mind. The brake line had been cut. And Patricia's fingerprints were found. Why? Why would Patricia do this? I remember those happy days 3 months ago. The weight and warmth when I first held 1-month-old Emma in my arms, the emotion I felt when her tiny fingers gripped mine. Even though I'd seen countless babies every day as a pediatric nurse, my own daughter was special. My husband Ryan was gentle, and the moment he came home from work, he'd scoop Emma up first. No matter how tired he looked, he'd smile when he saw our daughter's face. I thought we were the perfect family. But looking back now, the shadows were already there. Patricia, my mother-in-law, visited 3 times a week. She always stood at the door with a smile, bringing homemade soup or baby supplies. "I'll take care of Emma, you must be tired from work," she'd say in a gentle voice. I was grateful. I really was. But at the same time, I felt suffocated somehow. One night at 2 a.m., Emma started crying. I dragged my tired body up and lifted my daughter. Holding her small body against my chest, I sang a lullaby. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word." Emma's crying gradually quieted, and then for the first time, truly the first time, she showed me a tiny smile. Tears spilled from my eyes. I would do anything for this child, I thought from the bottom of my heart. Ryan wrapped his arms around me from behind and whispered, "You're the best mother." But when Patricia held the baby, her face was rigid. She'd say, "She's adorable," with her mouth, but her eyes weren't smiling. When Emma started crying, she'd immediately hand her back to me. "You'd better hold her," she'd say, as if touching our daughter was an obligation. Patricia's choice of words was also strange. She always emphasized, "my son." Not "our family," but "Ryan's family." When she said, "You're not used to the family yet," she never called me by name. Always just, "you." As if I weren't a member of the family at all. And Ryan's behavior. He was clearly tense in front of his mother. When Patricia came to visit, he'd suddenly go quiet. One day, when I voiced my opinion to Patricia a bit loudly, Ryan whispered to me in a small voice, "Don't make Mom angry." When I asked why, he averted his eyes. "Mom is scary when she's angry," was all he said. I also learned that Ryan's company was struggling financially. He said a $300,000 investment had disappeared, but he wouldn't elaborate. Even when collection notices came from the bank, he offered no explanation. 2 weeks ago, I fell on the stairs. A large bruise formed on my left arm. My best friend and colleague Amanda asked me about it with concern. I answered that I'd really just fallen, but I couldn't meet her eyes. The truth was, Patricia had pushed me. When I was talking with her at the top of the stairs, she suddenly looked at me with cold eyes and pushed me with both hands. As I tumbled down several steps, Patricia looked down at me expressionlessly. "You fell down the stairs, that's what you'll say," she commanded. When Ryan rushed over, Patricia said in a gentle voice, "Nicole fell, poor thing." I was too frightened to say anything. The day before the accident, my father's inheritance, $2,800,000, was officially transferred into my account. Patricia knew about it. That evening, she came to visit. "Let's go for a family drive tomorrow," she suggested. When I said I had work tomorrow, she replied, "Take the day off, family time is important." At that moment, I saw her eyes flash coldly for an instant. And then that fateful Sunday morning. The 3 of us went out for a drive. Ryan was driving, I sat in the passenger seat, and Emma was in her child's seat in the back. As we drove along the mountain road, Ryan shouted, "The brakes aren't working." A sharp curve loomed ahead, and the car crashed into the guardrail. Just before I lost consciousness, I heard Emma's crying. "Emma, my baby." And now I'm in a hospital bed. Everything is connecting. My mother-in-law's cold eyes, the reason she didn't want to hold the baby, her obsession with my son, the violence on the stairs, my husband's fear. Everything. The police officer's words come back to me. The brake line was cut, deliberately. And Patricia Chen's fingerprints were found. I understand, trembling. The culprit wasn't my husband. It was my mother-in-law. From the very beginning. 3 days later, I regained consciousness. The white fluorescent lights on the ceiling were dazzling. My whole body hurt. My left arm was broken, and bandages were wrapped around my head. But before the pain, one thought dominated my mind. Emma. Where is she? A nurse noticed I was awake and rushed over. I forced out my voice. Where is Emma? The nurse looked away. I'll call your husband, was all she said before leaving the room. That response told me everything. No, I didn't want to know. A few minutes later, Ryan came in. His face had scratches, and his arm was bandaged. But he seemed to have much lighter injuries than me. He was crying. But something was off. His way of crying seemed somehow unnatural. Nicole, he called my name. I looked into his eyes and asked, "Where's Emma?" Ryan looked away. "The baby couldn't be saved," he said. "But you made it," he continued. Did that way of saying it sound oddly cold, or was it just my imagination? I screamed. "You're lying, Emma." The doctor rushed in frantically and administered a sedative. As my consciousness faded, I collapsed in tears. But deep in my heart, a small sense of something wrong took root. My husband's behavior was strange. He was hiding something. That night, I lay in bed in a half-asleep state. I could hear voices in the hallway. Ryan's voice. He seemed to be on the phone. I listened through the door. "Yeah, it's over," he said. "No, she doesn't know anything," he continued. My heart froze. "It's over." "What's over?" "She doesn't know anything." Me. Who is Ryan talking to? What is he hiding? The next day, a young woman came to visit my hospital room. She was talking intimately with Ryan. The distance between them was close. A mistress? I asked weakly, "Who is that person?" Ryan turned around and answered, "My sister Lisa came because she was worried." When he put it that way, maybe it was true. But something about the two of them felt different. Too intimate. When Lisa left, she looked at me with an expression like she wanted to say something. But in the end, she left without saying anything. In the afternoon, a hospital clerk came. "Your child's life insurance, $500,000, the beneficiary is your husband, correct?" she confirmed. I was surprised. I didn't know about such insurance. "When did you take it out?" I asked. The clerk checked the documents and answered, 3 months ago. 3 months ago. Right after Emma was born. Why did Ryan take out insurance without telling me anything? $500,000. Such a large sum. My best friend Amanda came to visit. Holding my hand, she said with concern, "Ryan's been having money troubles lately, hasn't he? I heard his company is on the verge of bankruptcy." I nodded silently. "But he didn't tell me anything," I answered. Amanda hesitated a little before continuing. "Your father's inheritance, $2,800,000, right?" I trembled. The inheritance. $500,000 insurance policy. A company on the verge of bankruptcy. Everything was connecting in a line. No way. No way Ryan would. Our daughter. For money. No, that couldn't be. He was a kind husband. He loved Emma. But the doubt wouldn't disappear. The phone conversation. "Yeah, it's over." She doesn't know anything. That night, I stared at the bruise on my arm. The incident on the stairs 2 weeks ago came back to me. No, that wasn't an accident. Patricia had pushed me. I was talking with her at the top of the stairs. "You're not a good mother," she said. The moment I tried to respond, "What are you talking about?" Patricia suddenly pushed me. I tumbled down several steps. As I groaned in pain, Patricia looked down at me with cold eyes. "You fell down the stairs, that's what you'll say," she commanded. When Ryan rushed over, Patricia's expression changed completely. She said in a gentle voice, "Nicole fell, poor thing." I was too frightened to say anything. If I told Ryan the truth, would he believe me? Or would he take his mother's side? But thinking about it now, that might have been a warning. Patricia was trying to eliminate me. She might have intended to kill me by pushing me down the stairs. But that time she failed. So she made a new plan. To cut the brakes. No, wait. What am I thinking? I was suspecting Ryan as the culprit. But Patricia is suspicious too. She hated me. That was certain. She never called me by name, always calling me you. As if I wasn't family. But cutting brakes, would my mother-in-law have that kind of technical skill? No, Ryan was more likely. He works at an IT company, but he also knows about cars. He used to repair cars himself before. My head was confused. Was it my husband or my mother-in-law? Or did they conspire together? But one thing was certain. This wasn't an accident. Someone deliberately cut the brakes. And my daughter was murdered. Maybe Ryan didn't know anything. The phone conversation, "Yeah, it's over," might have meant something else. Maybe he was just being manipulated by his mother. That frightened behavior, the words, "Don't make mom angry." Maybe he was a victim too. But there was no evidence. What could I tell the police? I think my husband or mother-in-law killed my daughter. Without any basis. They'd just think I was delusional with postpartum depression. That night, I kept thinking alone. I couldn't accept my daughter's death. I mustn't accept it. Emma didn't die in an accident. She was murdered. And the culprit is right beside me. I looked out the window. I could see the moon. The lullaby I sang to Emma played in my head. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word." I vowed in my heart. I'll learn the truth. For Emma. Whoever the culprit is, I'll find them. Even if it's my beloved husband. Even if it's my mother-in-law. Justice will be served. But at that moment, I didn't yet know. The truth would be far more cruel and shocking than I could imagine. When the true culprit's identity was revealed, my world would completely collapse. The next morning, a female police officer named Detective Sarah Martinez came to my hospital room. She looked at me with a serious expression and said, "Ma'am, I need to talk to you. We have investigation results about the accident." I braced myself. Detective Sarah Martinez sat in a chair and looked straight into my eyes. "We examined the car's brake line," she said. I held my breath. "This was not an accident," she continued. "The brake line was cut. Deliberately. My premonition was correct. Someone intentionally cut the brakes. Someone tried to kill us. Someone killed my daughter." I screamed inside. I knew it. It wasn't an accident. But at the same time, fear struck me. Was the culprit my husband? Did the man I believed loved me kill our daughter for money? I asked in a trembling voice, "My husband, was it?" "He was in financial trouble, he wanted my inheritance." Detective Martinez shook her head. "No," she said. I was confused. "Not my husband. Then who? Could it be some stranger, at random?" No, cutting brakes is a premeditated crime. Someone who knew us. Detective Martinez took a deep breath. We examined the fingerprints, she said. Your mother-in-law's, Patricia Chen's fingerprints. Time stopped. I couldn't understand her words. Patricia. Not my husband. My mother-in-law. My mother-in-law cut the brakes. My mother-in-law tried to kill us. My mother-in-law killed my daughter. No, wait, that doesn't make sense. Patricia certainly hated me. But her own grandchild. Her own son. To try to kill them. Detective Martinez continued. Yes, Patricia Chen's fingerprints were found on the brake line, the car's hood, and tools. Furthermore, there's security camera footage. She took out a large tablet and showed it to me. The screen showed dark footage. Our home garage. The date was the day before the accident, 11 p.m. In the footage, someone was opening the car's hood. When I saw the face of that person captured by the camera, my breath stopped. Patricia. It was my mother-in-law. She picked up a tool and began cutting the brake line with practiced hands. The footage had no sound, but her movements were calm and certain. As if she'd done it many times before. And when the work was finished, Patricia stood up. She closed the hood and put away the tools. And finally, she smiled. Seeing that smile, I felt nauseous. She was smiling. While cutting the brakes that would kill her own grandchild, she was smiling. A voiceless sound leaked from my throat. Why? Why would she? Her grandchild. Her own grandchild. Detective Martinez said quietly, we're investigating that. But we spoke with your sister-in-law, Lisa. She also lost a baby in a similar accident 10 years ago. All the blood in my body froze. Lisa. 10 years ago. Lost a baby. A similar accident. No, not an accident. Patricia killed them. Lisa's baby too. And Emma too. Everything was connecting. My mother-in-law's cold eyes. Her rigid expression when holding the baby. How she immediately handed Emma back to me when she cried. She didn't love her grandchildren. From the beginning. The words, my son. Her abnormal obsession with her son. The cold words, you're not used to the family yet. Her expressionless face when she pushed me down the stairs. Everything. Everything was Patricia's doing. But I still couldn't understand. Why? Why did she need to kill her own grandchild? Why did she try to kill me? I asked in a trembling voice, did my husband, did Ryan know? Detective Martinez answered, we're investigating that too. But looking at his cell phone records, right after the accident, he called his mother. Why did you do this? He said. That phone call. The call I heard in the hospital hallway. Yeah, it's over. She doesn't know anything. That was a conversation with his mother. Ryan knew. He knew something. But he couldn't stop her. I was struck by complex emotions. My husband wasn't the culprit. But he knew his mother's secret. And he did nothing. He couldn't protect our daughter. He couldn't protect me. Detective Martinez took my hand. Ma'am, we need your cooperation. To arrest Patricia, we're gathering evidence. But we need your testimony. I wiped my tears. I'll do anything, I answered. For my daughter. For Emma. And so that no one else would ever lose their life at Patricia's hands again. Detective Martinez nodded. Thank you. There's one more thing I need to tell you. We looked at past records. 30 years ago, Patricia's husband, Ryan's father, died in a car accident. I gasped. 30 years ago. Ryan's father. Detective Martinez continued. At the time, it was processed as an accident due to brake failure. But the method is strikingly similar to this case. We've now reopened it as an unsolved case and begun reinvestigation. Patricia had killed her husband too. 30 years ago. And 10 years ago she killed her daughter-in-law's baby, and now, she killed my daughter. How many people had she killed? How many lives had she taken? And all of it for her abnormal obsession with her son. To make her son hers alone. I asked, is she also connected to Ryan's business funds disappearing? Detective Martinez took out documents. Yes, $300,000 was transferred to Patricia's account. She said she would invest for her son and took that money. But Ryan couldn't bring himself to suspect his mother. It was all Patricia's plan. Steal her son's money, kill her son's wife, kill her son's daughter. And she intended to get my inheritance, $2,800,000, too. If I died, Ryan would inherit. And by keeping Ryan under her control, she planned to steal that money. Detective Martinez finally said, in the house search, we found Patricia's diary. The contents are extremely shocking. Ma'am, are you prepared? I nodded. Nothing I heard would surprise me anymore. No, it would surprise me. But I needed to know. Everything. Detective Martinez opened a copy of the diary and began reading. August 15, 2023. Nicole's father died. $2,800,000. My son's wife becomes rich. Unforgivable. September 3, 2023. The baby was born. Emma. My son prioritizes the baby over me. Unforgivable. November 20, 2023. Nicole's inheritance was deposited. Time to execute the plan. November 21, 2023. Tonight, I'll cut the brakes. Tomorrow, I'll invite them for a drive. When Nicole and the baby die, everything will be mine. My son will come to love only me. November 22, 2023. It was perfect. The brakes are completely severed. Tomorrow, they will die. My son will grieve. But he'll forget soon. And he'll come to love only me. When Detective Martinez finished reading, I couldn't say anything. I could only tremble. She had planned everything. Written it in her diary. Like a shopping list. Calmly. Calculatedly. My daughter's life, my life, to her were just parts of a plan. Just means to eliminate obstacles. And all of it was for her son. No, not for her son. For herself. To continue controlling her son. To make her son hers alone. I forced out my voice. Arrest her. Right now. Detective Martinez nodded. Yes, an arrest warrant has already been issued. But ma'am, I have one more request. Patricia is a respected figure in the community. Even if we confront her with evidence, she may deny it. So we want to reveal the truth in public, in front of many people. I understood her intention. Expose Patricia's hypocrisy. The hypocrite who preached family bonds while murdering family. Reveal her true nature in front of everyone. When? I asked. Detective Martinez answered, this Sunday, Patricia is scheduled to be the lecturer for a seminar on family bonds at the local church. Over 50 participants are expected. Local media will also be covering it. We'll arrest her there. I nodded deeply. Perfect. Right there, as she's preaching about family bonds. Strip away the hypocrite's mask. Detective Martinez stood up. Thank you, ma'am. Justice will be served. After she left, I was left alone in the hospital room. I looked out the window. The sky was blue. My daughter was gone. But I was alive. And I would fight. For Emma. And for all the victims. After being discharged from the hospital, I met with Lisa. Just the two of us at a cafe. She looked at me with a complex expression. Apologetic, but at the same time somehow relieved. As soon as we sat down, I asked directly. You lost a baby too, didn't you? Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes. 10 years ago, she answered. My son Jacob. He was 6 months old. They said he fell down the stairs. But I knew. Patricia did it. Why didn't you tell the police? I asked. Lisa held her coffee cup with trembling hands. There was no evidence. And I had a mental breakdown. No one would believe me. Patricia spread it around. That her daughter-in-law was delusional with postpartum depression. That her daughter-in-law had gone crazy. I was in a psychiatric hospital for 2 years, Lisa continued. No one would listen to me. Even my brother Ryan took his mother's side. When I was released, no one believed me anymore. So I had no choice but to stay silent. Jacob's death was processed as an accident, and Patricia received no punishment. I held Lisa's hand. This time is different. This time there's evidence. You're not alone. Lisa nodded while crying. Thank you, Nicole. I'm so glad you survived. The next day, Detective Martinez contacted me. She brought a detailed investigation report. First, about Ryan's father's death 30 years ago. At the time it was processed as a simple accident, but reviewing the records, it was the same method as this time. Brake line severance. The autopsy report at the time was inadequate, but now it could be determined as murder. We officially began reinvestigation as an unsolved case. Next, about the embezzlement of Ryan's business funds, $300,000. Patricia said she would invest and took the money from her son, transferring it to her own secret account. Ryan couldn't bring himself to suspect his mother, and the company was driven to the verge of bankruptcy. And my father's inheritance, $2,800,000. In Patricia's plan, if I died, Ryan would inherit, and by keeping Ryan under her control, she intended to steal that money. In total, she was plotting to defraud over $3,100,000. Detective Martinez said finally, in the diary we found during the house search, there was a more detailed plan written. Patricia seems to have been thinking about ways to eliminate you for years. What kind of methods? I asked. Detective Martinez flipped through the diary pages. First was the plan to push you down the stairs. But when she carried it out 2 weeks ago, you only suffered minor injuries. So as the next plan, she decided to cut the brakes, it says here. I trembled. If I had been pushed harder down the stairs at that time, I might have died there. But Patricia's plan failed. So she chose a more certain method. Cutting the car's brakes. After that, with a lawyer present, I met with Ryan. He looked completely haggard. His face was pale, with deep circles under his eyes. I asked in a cold voice, "Did you know?" Ryan covered his face. I didn't want to believe it, he said. When my sister Lisa said 10 years ago that Mom had killed the baby, I didn't believe her. I agreed to put Lisa in a psychiatric hospital. I betrayed my own sister. If I had believed Lisa then, he collapsed in tears. If I had stopped Mom then, Emma might still be alive today. It's my fault. It's all my fault. After the accident, you called your mother, didn't you? I said. Ryan nodded. I asked her why she did such a thing. Mom said with a laugh, I eliminated that woman, now my son is mine alone. I was scared. I couldn't turn my mother into the police. I'm a coward, Ryan said. I couldn't protect our daughter. I couldn't protect you. I was afraid of my mother and couldn't do anything. I said coldly, you're an accomplice. You knew and kept silent. That's a crime. Ryan couldn't say anything back. He just kept crying. But I have one request, I continued. Testify. In court, tell everything your mother did. That's the only atonement you can make. Ryan looked up. His eyes were red and swollen. I understand, he said. I'll tell everything. I'll put Mom in prison. So that no one else can ever be hurt again. And then that fateful Sunday came. Over 50 people gathered at the local church. Good parents who came to hear a seminar about family bonds. Local television stations also came to cover it. Patricia stood on the stage and began speaking with a gentle smile. What is family? It is unconditional love. It is protecting children. I love my son. I loved my grandchild too. Sympathetic sighs leaked from the audience. Last month, my grandchild died in an accident, but we must move forward, Patricia continued. As if she were a victim of tragedy. As if she were a loving grandmother. The people in the hall sympathized with her and even applauded. At that moment, the church doors opened. Detective Sarah Martinez entered with several police officers. The hall fell silent. Detective Martinez walked toward the stage and said in a loud voice, Patricia Chen, you are under arrest for murder. The hall buzzed. Patricia made a surprised expression and shouted, What are you saying? I'm the victim. My grandchild died. You killed her, Detective Martinez said coldly. Footage appeared on the hall's large screen. Security camera footage. In the midnight garage, Patricia cutting the brake line. And after the work was finished, her smiling. The hall erupted. That can't be true, someone said. Her own grandchild, someone else said. And she was preaching about family bonds, another voice said. The color drained from Patricia's face. That's not it, she began making excuses. But Detective Martinez continued mercilessly. The next slide showed pages from the diary. The sentence, when Nicole and the baby die, everything will be mine. The sentence, my son will come to love only me. The people in the hall stared at the screen with disbelieving expressions. This was the true nature of the woman who had been preaching about family bonds. Patricia almost collapsed on stage. Son, Ryan, help me, she screamed. At that moment, Ryan appeared from the back of the hall. He looked at his mother and said quietly, Mom, it's over. I'm not your puppet anymore. Patricia looked at her son with an unbelieving face. Son, I did everything for you, she said. Ryan shook his head. Not for me. For yourself. You didn't love anyone. You just wanted to control. Then I also entered the hall. Walking slowly toward the stage on crutches. The people in the hall made way for me. My eyes met Patricia's. Her eyes held a mixture of fear and hatred. I stood before her and said quietly, You murdered my daughter. But I'm alive. And you will spend the rest of your life in prison. Patricia collapsed to the floor. Son, just my son, she repeated. But Ryan turned his back. He wouldn't even look at his mother anymore. Detective Martinez put on the handcuffs. In front of over 50 people and local TV cameras, Patricia was arrested. The lecturer who preached family bonds had been murdering family. That hypocrisy was exposed in front of everyone at that moment. As Patricia was led away, she kept calling her son's name until the end. But Ryan never turned around. As I left the hall, many people came up to me and said, We're truly sorry that we believed such a person. I answered quietly, she was good at acting. But the truth couldn't be hidden. Outside the church, I embraced Lisa. It's over, isn't it? She said through tears. Yes, it's over, I answered too. Finally, we can report to Jacob and Emma. The culprit has been caught. I looked up at the sky. Blue sky with white clouds drifting by. My daughter was gone. But justice had been served. Patricia could never hurt anyone again. The trial began 3 months later. Patricia denied all charges, but the evidence was overwhelming. Security camera footage, the diary, fingerprints, and testimony from Ryan and Lisa. The jury returned a guilty verdict in just 2 hours. The sentence was 3 life sentences without parole. The murder of her husband, the murder of Jacob, the murder of Emma. Plus attempted murder of me, embezzlement, attempted fraud. All of Patricia's assets were allocated to compensation for victims. When Patricia heard the sentence, she screamed in the courtroom. "Son, I did it for my son." But Ryan stood up from the gallery and said quietly, "I will never call you mother again." As court security led Patricia out, she continued to cry and scream. But no one sympathized. Local media reported it for days. The lecturer who preached family bonds had been murdering family. Social media exploded, with voices of condemnation from past seminar participants. Angry voices saying they had believed her advice. The church issued an official apology statement. Patricia in prison was miserable. Despised by other inmates as a child killer, she was completely isolated. Locked in solitary confinement 23 hours a day, no one came to visit. She claimed she heard Emma's crying every night, but no one believed her. 2 years later, she descended into madness, continuously scratching "my son" into the wall of her cell with her nails. She refused food, and her weight dropped to the extreme. 10 years later, she died of a heart attack with no one at her side. Her last words were, "Ryan, my son." No one claimed the body, and she was buried in the state's common cemetery with only her prisoner number on the gravestone. Meanwhile, we gradually began to move forward. The first 6 months we sank into deep sorrow. We kept Emma's room as it was and went to the cemetery every day. But gradually, we found meaning in living. I returned to work as a pediatric nurse. I decided to protect other children for Emma's sake too. I launched a family abuse detection program at the hospital and taught other nurses how to spot the signs. A mother-in-law's excessive interference, a spouse's fear, training not to miss those kinds of signals. Many families were saved. Lisa also recovered mentally. Knowing I wasn't crazy, she reclaimed herself. We became close friends and went to the cemetery together every month. As we offered flowers to the deceased babies together, we vowed, we survived, we'll live for their sake too. Ryan, after breaking with his mother, struggled with deep guilt. We divorced, but decided to support each other as friends. He received therapy and eventually began working for a child abuse prevention organization. "I want to save children under their mother's control," he said. 2 years later, on Emma's death anniversary, we gathered at her grave. Nicole, Lisa, and Ryan. The 3 of us offered flowers. The gravestone was engraved, "Forever in our hearts." "Emma, Mama is moving forward with life," I spoke to her. "What you taught me, the true meaning of family." Lisa said, "We survived, for your sake too." Ryan said, "I'm sorry, Emma, Uncle couldn't protect you. But now, I'm protecting other children." The 3 of us held hands. "We're not family, but we have a bond of protecting each other," Lisa said. "Maybe that's what real family is," Ryan answered. 3 years later, I became the director of the local family support center. I spoke to many people in lectures. Family isn't about blood ties, it isn't about control. It's about protecting each other, being free. My daughter Emma only lived for 4 months. But she taught me the most important thing. Real family doesn't bind you. It sets you free. On the wall of my new apartment, there's a photo of Emma. Next to it, a group photo of me and Lisa and other members of the victim support group. It says, Survivors United. In the morning, the sun rises outside the window. The beginning of a new day. Emma isn't here. But I'm not alone. I smile at the photo. Good morning, Emma. I'll do my best today too. My daughter doesn't answer. But in my heart, I feel like I can hear her voice. Do your best, Mama. I'm always by your side. I open the window. Fresh air flows into the room. Today someone needs help. Today someone is trying to escape from control. There's something I can do. I make coffee and prepare for work. I look at myself in the mirror. The scars still remain. But I'm alive. I've become stronger. Before leaving through the front door, I look at Emma's photo one more time. Thank you, I say in my heart. What you taught me, I'll never forget. I close the door. A new day begins. The sadness won't disappear. But there is hope. Justice has been served. And I keep walking forward. For Emma. For all the victims. And for the future.